Winter is coming. Soon I'm going to have to start wearing a jumper when I'm out in the garden. What a stuff around that's going to be. G'day, I'm Mark from Self-Sufficient Me, and in this video I want to show you several examples of how we transition from summer into winter so that we can grow food in our own backyard all year round. Let's get into it. Living in a warmer climate can be uncomfortable at times. However, one big advantage is we can grow food all year round, but not necessarily the same food all year. If you don't take heed of what plants to grow when, you just might find you won't have much to eat at all. Now, where did that go? Right now, we are in the transition period from summer into winter. And as you can see, I've been doing a lot of work pulling out old plants and replacing them with new. This okra was doing okay, but its productivity was going downrange real quick. And I just know that it wouldn't survive through winter. So there's no point in trying to keep it in just for a few of the pods when I could be growing lots of other things that grows faster and enjoys this time of year, especially the cold when we get into our winter. So we've planted some leeks, spinach, amaranth, which is self-seeded from the summer crop. Now, amaranth will grow really well through our summers, but it still enjoys a cooler time of the year here in the subtropics. At the same time, I've also sowed some fennel. This is a proper green fennel, and on the left here we sort of mothered this bronze fennel all the way through summer, where it usually doesn't grow that well through the summer, but it actually did, and I'm glad it survived. Now the bulbs will grow better and we'll be able to use the bulbs in stir fries and salads, as well as the leaves to flavour fishes and meats and foods and potatoes and all that type of thing. So this bed will be booming in a few weeks' time, and we're already able to harvest some of the produce already ready for winter. You can see here we've got rid of half of our gourds, and that was a little bit of work pulling all those plants out, and I suppose a little bit sad. And the gourds have been producing seeds because some of them ripened and were left ripen, and in the process of pulling them down we dropped seeds in this bed, which we have replaced now with tomatoes. But a lot of the seeds have been coming up and we've just been pulling them out. Practically, it feels like a waste, but it's not really, because if we let those gourds grow now at the wrong time of year, they just wouldn't grow as well. They'd be stunted or they wouldn't produce fruit, and it's just a real waste of nutrients in the soil. So rather, we did leave the other side of the gourd trellis keep growing on. It's at the moment having a battle with the passion fruits. The fruit is starting to now develop on the passion fruit vines, and they'll ripen coming into winter. So it's a really interesting mix. You're getting a mix of gourds and passion fruits growing together, and growing together happily. But like I said, why would I let the rest of the gourds take over when they're practically out of season now and will be useless in a month, when I could grow a crop of tomatoes here? And that's what I really am excited about. Tomatoes is probably my most favourite vegetable or fruit vegetable to grow. Tomatoes through the middle of summer here are really difficult to grow. In fact, we don't bother for 3 months of the year. Through the hottest part of the year, our subtropical summer, we don't grow tomatoes. A, they don't grow. B, if we can get them to grow, they really struggle with the humidity and the diseases. Plus the larger varieties, anything bigger than a cherry, get stung terribly by fruit fly, and the fruit gets full of maggots unless you try to net everything, which is impractical in a garden like ours. If you can get your tomatoes growing in this type of subtropical climate, similar to Florida in the USA, if you can get them going and growing before winter hits and starting to mature, well then you're on your way to tomatoes flowering and fruiting well through the winter months, providing you don't get any heavy frosts that can knock off a crop of tomatoes, of course. But if you can, they'll survive light frosts and cooler weather, and fingers crossed we're going to get a magnificent crop through this winter. I've got some bush style tomatoes growing on the outer edge here, and they will cascade over. That's the plan. And these tomatoes are indeterminate, which means they'll grow like a vine and hopefully grow a bit like this vine here, like the gourds or like the passion fruit, grow up and over, and then we'll have tomatoes up here, tomatoes over here, plenty of them, a little bit of basil on the side, and in the middle I've sown some beetroot. So I'm hoping to get a ton of beetroot all the way along this long garden bed, and that will grow in between the tomato crops. I reckon this is going to be a cracker of a bed this winter, and we're going to grow heaps of food. Right here we've got these winged peas. I've let these grow on. I thought, well, they were still flowering and producing well enough for me to leave them in, and they're not taking up much sunlight either to block the tomato seedlings growing up. So it was no harm to leave these in to get right to the end of their season. Check out this pumpkin vine here. This is a Queensland blue pumpkin, and it actually does grow quite well in the colder months in the subtropics. A bit like the tomatoes, it's preferred during the springtime, but even our pumpkins get hit by the fruit fly once they become active again in spring. So I don't like risking the pumpkins ripening right at the time when we get the most pests. So it makes sense to grow them now, even though it is a little bit risky. Mosquito, that they might get a frost and keel over. Hopefully they won't, and we'll get some good pumpkins out of that. On the other side of the pumpkins, you see the turmeric is starting to die back. I'll bring you over there and give you a closer look. Turmeric is so easy to grow for us in a subtropical climate, but it does suffer through winter. In fact, it dies completely back. In about 4 weeks' time, all the leaves of the turmeric plant will be completely brown, but you can use them as mulch in the garden. Cut them all back and then stick them around plants and actually shelter the winter plants from any cold that we do get, and conserve moisture as well. Turmeric is a real funny crop. It will grow as hard as possible right to the brink of winter and then suddenly die back. And then it'll take a long time to establish and regrow back in spring. Sometimes it's not till almost the end of spring that you'll see it starting to get hold and shooting up again. Of course, we dig ours up. I've showed you how to grow a ton of turmeric before. We dig ours up and split it up, make our turmeric powder and use it in cooking and all that, and then replant it sometimes in a different spot in the new coming season. It's really easy to grow. But what I've been doing here is, you can see the pumpkin plants will encroach on the turmeric. So as it dies off, the pumpkin plants will grow over the top of it. And on the other side, which I'll show you now, I've made a mini tomato trellis. I'm going to grow tomatoes on the outside of this, and they're going to grow up and then flop over and also into here. But I'm also going to plant some peas along the inside, some telegraph peas, and they're going to intertwine with the tomatoes and have like a double crop growing in the one space. I've pushed the trellis all the way back into the turmeric plants here because the tomatoes and the peas will grow right into this, and by the time they're starting to develop, the turmeric plants will have died off. So there's the interchange there. Very simple, easy concept, doesn't waste time. Waiting for one crop to die back so that you can replace it with the other one just might miss that window of opportunity, and they may not grow as well. In this bed right here, we've got chillies that are also on the way out. Some of the chillies might get through our winters, but chili plants, or hot peppers you call them in the US, they tend to go dormant through our winter time. So you can trim them back and then they will come back again in spring when the weather warms up. This season, I'm growing a few ricotto chilies because I believe the ricottos, and I haven't grown them before, but I believe they handle the cold a little better than other types of chilies. So that could be my transition crop, or the crop that keeps the chilies going. Of course, you can preserve chilies so that you can get that chili flavouring and hit through the winter months. If you're in a cold climate and you're watching this video crying your eyes out saying this isn't fair, look, you can grow like hell through your growing season, spring and summer, and then preserve like crazy so that you do have food through those cooler months. Moving behind the chilies, we've got another interesting example. This is Jerusalem artichoke. It produces these little tubers, and they're excellent in cooking, or I even like to ferment them. They make a beautiful crunchy salad snack, or just a nice pickle snack on their own when you ferment them. But our Jerusalem artichokes now are dying back. We can either harvest them and then change these beds to something else, or you can leave the tubers in the ground and grow over the top. And that's what I did with this bed here. That also is Jerusalem artichoke. I sowed them underneath, or buried them like you would bury a potato to grow. Then over the top, I actually grew radishes. We got a season out of the radishes, and once the radishes died back and they flowered, and they actually completely rotted, some of the ones that we left in there, completely finished, they turned into mulch, made the soil nutrient rich, and helped the Jerusalem artichoke to grow when they came up themselves through the summer. Speaking of artichoke, this here is globe artichoke, and it's the opposite to the Jerusalem artichoke. Where the Jerusalem artichoke loves the summer, the globe artichoke likes our winters and grows best through winter time with the typical globe artichoke that we love to eat. What happens with our artichokes is typically the artichoke plant will die back as summer hits, and it'll look like it's dead. Then it'll start reshooting from the base. But you can also let the globes go to seed, then sprinkle them in your garden and they will come up. You don't need a whole lot to get a good feed of artichoke globes through the winter time here. So where a lot of locations will grow artichokes as an all year round plant, like in a temperate climate, here in the subtropics or a warmer climate, we grow artichokes as an annual. So that's the difference between the globe artichoke and the Jerusalem artichoke, which is the root crop. Right next to this globe artichoke is a yacon, and that also will grow through our summer, but it struggles a little, and as it gets into the transition of winter time, that's when it starts to grow really well and develop those beautiful tasty tubers. And all the bok choys you see coming up, they also grow through our summer, but I let them go to seed because they bolt rather quickly. As we transition into winter, they grow beautiful lush leaves and they start coming up like crazy, and we don't even have to plant them. All we've got to do is regulate where they come up. If they come up in the wrong spot, we can move the seedlings. They just grow so easily. This is one of the crops that we don't even have to think about. We just know every winter we're going to get a good feed of bok choy. Collards are a loose leaf cabbage-like crop. It's a brassica, but because of its loose leaf, I was able to plant them a little earlier. They tolerate heat better than a closed-hearted cabbage. The cabbages are on the way. I've sown cabbage seed in our front garden beds, but these here are well and truly on their way to becoming established and growing rather well in this raised bed here. So we've been thinning the plants out and using them as baby greens in stir fries and in soups and in salads even. I would recommend, if you're looking at a transition crop and the weather's still a bit too warm but you still want to get into your brassicas and your cabbages, well then think about collards, because they're quite hardy and they're beautiful tasting, really sweet, lovely cabbage-like leaves. In fact, I think they're almost better than some cabbages. And right in front of me here is something else that I wanted to show you, and that's garlic. That's right, garlic in a warm subtropical climate. Not easy to grow, but you can do it if you get the timing right. And it's right about now, as we're coming into winter and the weather's starting to cool down, whether you plant it. The trick with garlic is you've got to, and I hopefully can bring you how to grow a ton of garlic video soon, but the problem with garlic is it likes a long season. You've got to be careful that you don't plant it too early, otherwise the heat and rain will rot the bulbs in the ground, and of course you're not going to get much of a crop if that happens. So planting it later as the weather cools down, but still giving it enough time so that it can mature before the summer rains hit again in summer, is what you need to do. And we even have a transition period when it comes to our orchard or fruit trees. You get some fruit trees like our mangoes, they will start to slow right down and not grow much at all. But then you'll get other fruit trees like our citrus. This is the prime time when most of them start developing and growing their fruit, and the fruit starts ripening, like our oranges, our mandarins, and even tomarellos, which start to ripen now outside of the fruit fly range again, which is fantastic. As the fruit fly go dormant here, we've got a whole lot of fruit that are ripening at the perfect time. And of course the vitamin C hit is really welcome through the colder months. We're not getting as much sunlight and there isn't as much fruit to go around. It's really handy to have citrus growing through the colder parts of the year here. And that's it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video of a bit of a walk around type of tour, transitioning from summer into winter and showing how we grow food all year round. This is sort of like a bit of a bite-sized hit. There's plenty more I could have gone into, but I just wanted to give you some idea and hopefully motivate some of you who might be thinking, well, winter's coming now, I can't really grow much, and you live in a warmer climate. Well, it's not true. This is just the start of the best growing time of the year, because all those types of crops now can be grown, like brassicas, root crops, carrots, turnips, parsnip, and many other. Asian greens is another one that popped into my head, and lots of other crops. Thanks a lot for watching. If you've got any questions, whack them down in the comments section below. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Bye for now. Gee.